Who's going to be the starting goalie in Abbotsford this year, do you think?
Tolopilo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I say that with pretty some conviction.
You didn't even hesitate. So I'm just listen. You're the guy to ask when it comes to this stuff. I was sort of thinking that as well, but obviously they signed the prospect from Vegas, Yuri.
Patera.
Yeah, Patera. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it still could be Silovs. Who knows? Like maybe Patera does get the job. I mean, I think it's Silovs' job to lose, obviously, at the backup role. But I think overall, it has to be Tolopilo's net. I mean, at the same time, it is the AHL. So with the given the back-to-back schedule of the AHL, there's no real starting goalie as it is. But I think if you need to start one goalie, it's Tolopilo, in my opinion. I don't think his season gets talked about enough last year because everyone's so focused on Silovs, but he was quietly really good and at times a lot better than Silovs. Like yeah. I'm dropping my top 20 Canucks Army prospects right now, and Silovs made my number 3. And I even mentioned in the article that if you asked me right before the playoffs, I would have said that you're probably going to see Silovs maybe in the AHL for one more season because he wasn't dominant all the year last year. Tolopilo actually stole the net from him for a good stretch there. So I think Tolopilo gets the starting job in Abbotsford, and it's his to lose, in my opinion.
And kind of tying that in, I think most Canucks fans feel like Thatcher Demko's playing too many games. We still don't know 100% if he's fully recovered for this upcoming season, but the big thing that we were all sitting there going is like, why are they starting him? Like, obviously you want to get those wins and you want to get, make up ground in the division, but I think a lot of Canucks fans are like, he is starting too much, and now you have this sort of lightning in a bottle with Silovs playing so well last season. Like, I think it's a no-brainer. You do as much as you can with the split with Silovs and Demko. Is that kind of how you see it as well?
Yeah, it just seems like that's the way the league's going, especially with Demko now. Now he's a repeat, like he's got a bit of an injury bug. He's been injured a few seasons now. So you really got to thread that line. And I do think Silovs is worthy. I mean, let's see how he does,
Mm-hmm.
Get him in the 30. Let's split these up nice and even here. I agree. Like Demko, he has to be ready for the playoffs. So,
Well, and I think there's something to having a goaltender that you believe in and playing better. And I thought, DeSmith early in the season last year, Casey DeSmith gave them that. I think there was a lot of confidence there when he was there. But you just had a playoff run with Silovs where he was a big reason why they were able to continue going in the playoffs. I think that's going to play a big role as well. And them, possibly going to him as a backup, because I think there's something to that. Remember seasons ago, it was a backup goalie graveyard. Braden Holtby, Halak, like it just Martin. What's his name? I'm escaping his name. Spencer Martin, that's what I was thinking of. It's just like it never seemed to work out in the backup spot, but last season with the Smith, it seemed like they finally had a good one, and I know they weren't able to re-sign him, but I think that the 1-2 punch of Silovs and Demko could work out great if they just utilize it properly. I'm assuming you kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, and homegrown talent, right? Like someone that they brought up.
5th round pick, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like goalies are funny like that. Like when you look at some of the best goalies in the league, like a lot of them weren't high end picks. We've got a lot of 5th round, 4th round undrafted. Like goalies are kind of that funny position. But yeah, I think he's an Ian Clark prototype, right? Like he's a homegrown talent. I think they believe him. I do think that they believe that he could be the successor of Thatcher Demko. So I think it's a great I think it's a great fit that they got going on right now. Thatcher Demko is the man right now, but he's aging soon. Hopefully within the next year or two, Silovs can kind of take over that role, and I think it's a great fit.
Before we wrap things up here, we talked about obviously the AHL side of things. Are there any AHL guys that you think could get some NHL time this year? Like we saw Linus Karlsson last year, Archie Baines. A name that I don't hear a lot about anymore, and maybe kind of give me some insight on his season, is Akito Hiroshi. I remember he got games initially when they signed him. Haven't really heard a ton about him. Are there any players that sort of fit that mold of guys that could be call-ups this season?
Oh, totally. In my opinion, there's quite a few names. One name that I've been basically on my pedestal knocking for months is Max Hassan. I just he was that one player in Abbotsford last year that on any given night, he was the most consistent. Every night he was driving play. He was the oil that made the engine go every single game. So I don't think he has like that high upside per se of some of the other prospects, Ratu, even Baines. But I just think if you're looking for a straight center who's going to play hard talk it minutes, Max Hassan is your guy. I would love for him to get a look. Like I said, I don't think he's got that. I don't think he's playing second line minutes, but I think as a fourth, even maybe third line center at some point, I would love to see him get some looks. Baines, of course. I could see Ratu getting a few games depending on how his season starts, just to see him go in there. I could even see Lekaramaki. Maybe they give him 9 games and see where he's at. I'm personally in the camp of wanting him to be in Abbotsford next season. I just don't why rush things and let him go, but he is a goal scorer. If they feel that he has a good camp and can score a few goals for them, maybe he does slot in somewhere in that top 9. But in terms of the forward groups, those are kind of my names. On the back end, you are right. You didn't hear a lot about Akito Hirose. That's mainly because he was injured for most of the season. Kind of like Klimovich, he had basically a write-off year. He finally got in some games at the end of the season, and he actually looked okay in the playoffs. But he is 25 now. I personally didn't see anything that I'm writing home about, and so I still think he's a viable option. I wouldn't be getting my hopes up in order. He's quite small, and it kind of showed last year. So, but we do got Elias Pettersson, DPD back there. I don't think he's going to be ready for the NHL per se, but he's a name. And he was my number 4 prospect in my rankings. And he's kind of a name that I say, we're upset that we lost Nikita Zadorov. He's kind of that next guy that maybe they're thinking he can kind of fill some of that void in the next year or two. He's a name that I'd be really keeping a close eye on.
And then another name as well. So we obviously talked about, Hirose and some of these other names as well, too. When you look at sort of the overall scope of the prospect pool, how would you compare it to seasons of the past? Like you sort of talked about it there. Do you feel like it's kind of the strongest it's been in recent years, just with what they've been able to do, Alvin and Rutherford?
It has to be. I mean, right off the bat, you have your 2 top 5 prospects playing in Abbotsford. That's something that we haven't seen a lot. Like we just haven't seen that top prospect play in Abbotsford or in the AHL, whether it's Utica or like they've been there. But right now we have, I'm just looking at it right now. There's like 9 to 10 names that are homegrown, maybe not homegrown, but young players that could have potential of playing on the roster at some point. Time and time again, we've seen just so many filler names that are good players, but they're definitely, that 25 and up kind of range. And, they're definitely tweeners. We know what they are. But right now we've got an exciting group in Abbotsford that's, some of these names could pop. You never know. And so at the very least, it's an exciting time to be an Abbotsford Canucks fan because you're going to get some young, exciting talent. So I think in my personal opinion, it's probably the best it's ever looked, just in terms of youth and skill. But we'll see how that goes.
Any PTOs you think the Canucks will be taking a look at? There's still some names out there. I believe Tyson Barrie is still not signed by anyone. Do you see any names like that coming to camp and possibly trying to make the roster? I know it's pretty full right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I mean, Tyson Barrie is a name that I am a little bit surprised that he hasn't gotten any looks yet. So I would love for Tyson Barrie to come in on a PTO. Like I know, there's some knocks on him, but at the same time, he's only 33 and he's had some pretty high offensive pedigree. We do need puck movers on this back end, right? Or sorry, they need puck movers on this back end. So who knows? I haven't taken I'm kind of blanking on some of the names that I'm really thinking of, but Barrie definitely seems like an interesting name.
Dave, what's coming up for you as far as like the prospect stuff? I know the season is approaching very quickly. It's July 31st, but I know things sort of get underway. We know we have the prospects, camp and all that stuff. Like what's coming up prospects wise and also Canucks wise that people can kind of keep tabs on?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's that dog day of summer where I was laughing last night. I was kind of hoping to catch some of the Team Canada. We've got obviously the Canucks have Anthony Romani and Sawyer Minio playing for Team Canada, so they had their little summer scrimmage that I was hoping that they'd stream, but they didn't. And here I am in mid-July with my fists up, wanting to watch scrimmage hockey. But no, so we got the summer showcase right now. Canucks have 3 prospects taking part in that, which is exciting. And then we're back to the dog days of summer for August. But yeah, we got Penticton early September. Obviously, training camp is in the same week, which is kind of nice. I don't know if I'll be there for training camp, but I'm going to definitely try to make it out for Penticton. And then we've just got the whole string of all the other prospects. We got NCAA starting, all the OHL, CHL leagues going to start up early or mid-September-ish. So yeah, we've got about a month more before it really starts to kick into gear here.
You mentioned NCAAs. You just reminded me. Tom Willander, we heard that there's an injury there. Anything serious? Do we expect him to be ready for the start of his season at Boston College?
Yeah. I, as far as I'm concerned, I've done a little bit of digging. It sounds like it's nothing to be concerned about. He's pretty much a guaranteed lock for that team, and you actually see it quite often. There's a few names that at the very last minute, I know Caden Lindstrom for Team Canada just got taken off and he won't play. Like, it's just one of those things that when you're pretty much a lock for the team, there's no need right before the season to go out and, hurt yourself even more in a little scrimmage game that means absolutely nothing. So with Willander, he should be completely fine, and he's going to be the golden boy in Boston at Boston this year. So.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Dave, this was awesome. Thanks so much for doing this. Definitely got to get you back on at some point. I hate this time of year because you're probably like me. You listen to 650 and they got the Jays on. Like, I don't care at all about baseball. Give me prospect talk and Canucks talk as much as possible. I'm that guy who year round, I want to hear that stuff. So it was great catching up and hearing about everything going on. Just remind my listeners where they can get a hold of you on social media and anything you got coming out. And are you doing the prospect write-ups for the Canucks Army? By all means, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, and thanks so much for having me. I'm always happy to talk prospects. So if you ever want a guest to come on and talk prospects throughout the summer, I'm your guy. I'm like you. I like baseball. I'm a Seattle Mariners fan.
Same here, by the way. Not a Jays fan. Always Griffey was my guy growing up. So that I'm like a very casual fan in that way. But it's Mariners all the way for sure.
Absolutely. If you grew up on the West Coast and you're around my age, I'm 34. So you're a Griffin fan. You're a Mariners fan. Yes. Canucks Army, that's where I do all my work, and you can find me at Hall1289 on Twitter, and I'm just about to wrap up where we just dropped our second ranked prospect at Canucks Army today, so we're finally getting to that number one, but go check out my top 20. I'll have a recap out in a couple days as well for that, and yeah, I'm just, catch me on Twitter. I'm basically everything and all Canucks prospects, so.
There we go. All right, Dave, thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll talk soon, man.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Take care.